You're 25, broke, confused, watching everyone else seemingly win at life. The people you're comparing yourself to are doing the same thing. The race you're grinding yourself down to win. It was never real. I want to give you a framework. 3 letters for building something in your 20s that actually lasts. I'm calling it the ICE method: identity formation, capacity building, energy protection, 9 practices, 4 mindset shifts, and 10 areas of life where what you invest now either pays off for decades or quietly costs you for the same amount of time. This isn't a productivity system. It's not a morning routine. It's about becoming the kind of person who does well consistently across jobs, industries, relationships, decades, whether anyone's watching or not. The status trap isn't a personal weakness. It's a neurological default. Your brain's dopamine pathways respond strongly to social comparison, to being seen favorably, to status and recognition. These systems evolved over hundreds of thousands of years when social standing was directly tied to survival. Being respected in the group meant access to resources. Low status meant vulnerability. Your brain learned to pursue status with the same urgency it pursues food. The problem: those pathways can't distinguish between status that reflects genuine growth and status that's purely performative. A follower count and a deeply held value feel neurologically identical in the short term. The status trap is what happens when that ancient drive collides with a modern environment that offers endless cheap status signals. Likes, titles, impressive sounding busyness that produce the reward hit without any of the substance. The ICE method is about redirecting that drive toward things that actually compound. Become the kind of person who succeeds whether anyone is watching or not. Performance-based success, built on impressiveness, visibility, external validation, needs the audience. Remove the audience and the foundation goes with it: identity-based success, built on who you genuinely are, what you're actually capable of. How you honestly operate doesn't. No algorithm change, no industry disruption, no relationship ending can touch it. It lives in you, not in the conditions around you. William James studied the identity behavior loop at the turn of the 20th century. Carol Dweck at Stanford formalized it. Sustainable behavioral change follows identity change, not the other way around. Try to change behavior without first updating your identity. I want to exercise more without I'm someone who prioritizes physical health. And your brain experiences constant low-level conflict between the new behavior and the existing self-concept. Every time you skip the gym, you're not just skipping a workout. You're confirming an existing identity. The behavior fights the identity rather than flowing from it. When identity updates first, when I am someone who precedes the behavior becomes an expression of who you are rather than a violation. Behaviors encoded as identity expression use dramatically less willpower and produce more consistent results over time. There's also the question of meta skills. Cognitive scientists studying expertise across domains have identified a category of skills that work differently from domain-specific ones. Domain-specific skills, coding, accounting, playing an instrument, are valuable within their domain but don't transfer outside it. Meta skills, deep work, discomfort tolerance, learning agility, transfer across every domain and every decade of adult life. Research, including work by economists at Harvard, found that the adults who navigated career disruption and economic volatility most successfully weren't those with the most credentials. They were those with the most developed meta skill profiles, the capacity to learn new things, tolerate uncertainty, and work deeply in unfamiliar territory mattered more than any specific qualification. Most 20 somethings are building domain specific credentials. One's best, The ones who adapt best are simultaneously build meta skill layer that makes every credential more durable. Identity capital. Dr. Meg J. at the University of Virginia calls it identity capital, the personal assets you accumulate by investing in who you're becoming, not just what you're achieving. She distinguishes two kinds of 20 something investment: identity capital, which is deep and compounds, and status capital, which is visible and depreciates. Her research found that 20 somethings who make intentional identity investments consistently outperform their peers on life's satisfaction, relational quality, and career resilience at 35 and 40, even when those peers had more impressive early career trajectories. The person who spent more time understanding themselves, building meta skills, and investing in close relationships often arrives at 35 further ahead by the measures that actually matter. At 24, I was very good at looking productive. My systems were clean. My calendar was full. My output was visible and well received. A mentor asked me one question I couldn't answer without hesitating. What are you learning right now that you couldn't have learned a year ago? I went quiet. I was getting better at things I already knew how to do. I wasn't building learning agility. I wasn't pursuing discomfort. I was just getting faster at my existing capacity. That question is the most reliable diagnostic I know for whether you're building identity capital or just accumulating status. Ask it once a month. Write the answer down. If the answer, nothing I couldn't have done last year, that's your signal to move towards something harder. The Steve Jobs Detour. In 1975, a 20-year-old Steve Jobs dropped out of Reed College after one semester. He spent the next 18 months auditing classes with no credential goal, only the ones that genuinely interested him. He sat in on a calligraphy course he had no practical use for. He slept on floors. He had no plan that would satisfy anyone's external expectations. What he was doing, though he wouldn't name it until his 2005 Stanford commencement address, was gathering data about what he found beautiful, what engaged him fully, what he was willing to endure difficulty for, building identity capital in a form nobody could see from the outside. 10 years later, that calligraphy course became the typographic design of the Macintosh. You can't connect the dots looking forward, Jobs said. You can only connect them looking backwards. The dots only connect if you're actually collecting them. What are you collecting right now? Identity formation, the 5 whys. Take any goal you're currently pursuing. Ask why you want it. Take that answer and ask why again. Do this 5 times. By the 5th why, you'll have either confirmed the goal is genuinely yours or discovered it belongs to a parent, a peer, a cultural expectation, or a version of yourself you've already outgrown. The first 2 whys are easy. The third starts to get honest. The 5th tells you everything. C. Capacity building deep. Work the ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks for extended periods. Cal Newport at Georgetown calls this one of the rarest and most economically valuable skills in an increasingly distracted economy. The practice, one 90-minute block per day, phone in another room, one task, browser closed. Not productivity theater, actual focused work. Start at 30 minutes if 90 is unreachable. The capacity builds with practice. Discomfort. Tolerance, the repeated choice to lean into difficult tasks, difficult conversations, and difficult situations rather than defaulting to avoidance. Every time, choose the harder thing when the easier thing is available, and do it without drama. The tolerance window widens. That window is the foundation of every form of resilience. Learning agility, the ability to pick up new skills and navigate genuinely unfamiliar territory without significant anxiety. It's built through deliberate cross-domain learning, one subject with no obvious application. to your current work, one skill that genuinely humbles you, one perspective that challenges your current framework. Once a quarter, find something you're bad at and stay in it long enough to get mediocre. Mediocre at something new beats excellent. At something familiar, break time for all three before the week starts. Not what's left over. Protected time. Capacity is built by design. E. Energy protection. This is the most underrated piece. Almost nobody talks about it. Energy, not caffeine. But the deep cognitive and emotional resource that determines the quality of every decision, every relationship, every piece of work you produce is finite. And your 20s will give you an extraordinary number of ways to drain it. Attention hygiene every platform, every notification, every algorithmically optimized feed is designed to extract your attention at the lowest possible cost to them and the highest possible cost to you. One practice: the first 60 minutes of your day, no social media, no news, no other people's agendas for your mind. 60 minutes to think your own thoughts before the day writes itself. Recovery rhythms the research on peak performance, including sports science applied to knowledge work, consistently shows that the highest output people are not those who work the most hours. They're those who manage the work-rest cycle most deliberately. One full recovery day per week. Not optimization, not side projects. Rest. Play. Whatever refills the specific tank your work depletes. It's not a reward for productivity. It's the structural requirement for sustained productivity. Decision minimization. Every decision you make in a day, what to eat, what to wear, whether to respond to a message, draws from the same finite cognitive resource. Decision fatigue is real and cumulative. Automate the low stakes decisions so the high stakes ones get your full capacity. The 5 seconds you save aren't the point. The cognitive reserve you preserve is start protecting energy before you need to, not after the depletion has already made your decisions for you. 4 mindset shifts, psychological flexibility over rigid Planzel Hirschfield at UCLA. Found that people who maintain a flexible, evolving relationship with their future self make better long-term decisions than people who lock into a fixed plan. Rigid plans make sense if the world is stable. It isn't. Build adaptable skills, not permanent blueprints. When the plan changes, and it will, you want to be someone who can navigate novelty, not someone whose identity depends on the plan staying intact. Daff over breadth in relationships. The Harvard study of adult development, 80 years in, still running, found that the single most predictive variable for health and happiness at 70 was not wealth or achievement. It was the warmth and depth of close relationships. Stop networking and start SNM. A network is a collection of people you might use someday. Echt relationships. Deep relationships are people who know the whole picture and stay anyway. You need 3. Pursue them with the same intentionality you'd pursue a promotion. Process over outcomes. Carol Dweck's research consistently shows that people who define their identity through process, what they practice, how they approach difficulty, what they learn from failure, are more resilient and more persistently motivated than those who define identity through outcomes. Instead of, I want to get the promotion, ask, what kind of worker am I becoming this year? The outcome is downstream of the process. Longer time horizons behavioral economists have documented hyperbolic discounting. Our tendency to dramatically overvalue immediate rewards, delayed ones, and shown it's trainable against. When evaluating any significant decision, add one question. What does the person I want to be at 40 think about this? That question isn't permission to be passive. It's permission to be patient with things that genuinely compound. Most 20-somethings are operating on a 1 to 2 year time horizon. Genuinely different are thinking in 5 to 20-year windows. That gap alone explains most of the difference in where people land. 10 domains 1 thought on each area of life because the foundation you build in each either compounds quietly for decades or erodes quietly for the same. The Identity Lab. Your 20s are an experiment, not a search for one true self. Gather data through diverse experiences. What aligns with you? What doesn't? The data is more honest than the plan. Relationships. Invest in connections that create mutual growth. Pull back from those that consistently drain without returning. The compound interest your 20-year-old self ignores is the compound interest your 40-year-old self will mourn. Automate one savings behavior before this week ends. The amount doesn't matter as much as the habit. Health, sleep, movement, and stress management in your 20s aren't self-care luxuries. They're the physical infrastructure that will either amplify or constrain every other investment on this list for the next 40 years. Career. The career ladder is a metaphor that no longer describes the terrain. Build a portfolio of transferable skills. Each new role is a laboratory for discovering your strengths and values, not a permanent commitment to a single identity. Learning, curiosity is a competitive advantage. Independence. The confidence to solve problems without constant external validation is built by actually solving problems. Courage. Confidence isn't a prerequisite for action, it's a byproduct of it. Consistency. One page a day becomes 12 books a year, becomes a different quality of mind in 5 years. The long game, your 20s are the starting blocks. The infrastructure you build now, in identity, capacity, energy, relationships, and health, determines the ceiling available to every version of yourself that comes after. First room of it. 7 things to do this week. Run the 5 whys on one goal you're currently pursuing. Tonight, before you sleep. By the 5th why you'll know whether it's actually yours. Block one 90-minute deep work session in your calendar. Phone in another room. One task. No browser tabs. Begin before you feel ready. Ask yourself, in writing, what you're learning that you couldn't have learned a year ago. If the answer is nothing, that's your next move. Name 3 people who know the real version of you. If you can't name 3, identify one and send them an honest message this week, not a highlight reel. Something true. Design one attention hygiene practice. A first 60 minutes window, phone in another room, or a default response delay. Choose one. Tomorrow morning, ask this about one significant decision you're currently facing. What does the person I want to be at 40 think about this? Write one honest paragraph answering, whose life am I actually building? To close the status trap works in the short term. The visible credentials, the impressive titles, the curated presence, they open doors. They produce real rewards. There's nothing wrong with building those things. The danger is building only those things, mistaking the decoration for the foundation. Arriving at 35 with a perfect external structure and discovering the internal one was never built. Identity, capacity, energy, all 3 compound, all 3 transfer, all 3 belong entirely to you, regardless of what the world demands. The world does next. The most powerful thing in your 20s won't be visible to anyone but you, and it will shape everything that is. Tell me in the comments, which letter of ICE do you most need to build right now? And what's the one specific practice you're starting this week? Subscribe